Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Cancer New Moon. It's a partial eclipse today, solar eclipse today, and the energy is and has been for the last week rising and pushing and shoving and really building. So if anyone here has been feeling, or anyone out there I should say, has been feeling challenged by this time, please be aware that it's a really rare eclipse season that we are entering today. There's a solar eclipse, a lunar eclipse, and then another solar eclipse. So for those who are not necessarily aware of what happens astrologically when there's a lunar, or when there's what's termed as an eclipse season, normally it's a lunar eclipse, then a solar eclipse, then a lunar eclipse. But in this case, we're having two solar eclipses and one lunar eclipse, and it's very intense. And I know that personally, I've been feeling the push and the shove quite distinctly, and a lot of it has to do with my foundations and standing true to myself and being solid in myself. And so that's part of what the Cancer energy is about at the moment is, what are my boundaries? What is my foundation? And when I look at the empowerment aspect of it, this is also the energy of home for Cancer. So the empowerment story here is, am I being true to myself? Am I standing in my truth, I'm solid on my foundations of what I believe to be true and right for me personally, and understanding where my boundaries are around this. And so with the Cancer energy of home, it's my home that I create as my sanctuary, and I do that deliberately. As much as I would on many levels love to live in community, there's a part of me that needs a little bit of separation in order to ensure that I'm not absorbing everything from everybody else and living in their world and actually not knowing where my world ends and starts and ends. And that's a big lesson and a big learning for me to be solid in it. So I do live in community in the place I'm living in because I have neighbours who are very close to me, but I don't live with them and I don't share a lot of the things that you might normally share in a share house. I have my own flat or my own apartment in this little place, but it's a very close community because it's a part of an old house, as you can probably see from the architecture, and you can see from the old style walls, etc. So it's about seeing where things are at and being clear on that. So, and we have someone with us today. Charlie's just arrived, which is beautiful. So hello, Charlie. And if you'd like to take your video off as well, because I've started recording. So sweet. So in regards to the energy of how this is going to work for everyone, my suggestion is you really do have a good look at the boundaries of your home and ensure that you are solid and safe in them, and that if people are crossing the boundaries for you or like in your world, then you need to be very clear within yourself what your boundaries are and know how to put them in place, because that's actually quite relevant. So excuse me. So I'm going to draw a card for the collective, and now that we have a participant joining us, we'll draw a card for her as well, and then one for me. And if anybody else joins us in the meantime, they'll get a card too, and then we'll just see where the story takes us. Yeah, quite an intense time, and yeah, hold on to your hats, people. It's about a month and a half of intensity, plus all of the other planetary aspects, and some planets being in retrograde. There's quite a few still in retrograde, so it's keeping everything working very slowly, so things feel like they're never going to move fast enough. But the reality is everything's moving at lightning speed, and we're in what's termed as the quickening. So I don't know what happens for my week. I arrive on my Monday morning, and next thing I know, I feel like I'm arriving on a Sunday, and I'm going, what happened to the days in between? I know they're there. I know I experienced them, but oh my Lord, it's gone. So let's draw a card for the collective around the energy of Cancer and the new moon. And also too, let's see what's coming up, what maybe needs to be highlighted around this eclipse energy that's literally taking place today, sometime this afternoon. Well, this is a really intense card. It's called Fighting. And I'm feeling to call this card, a lot of people are quite shocked by this card when they first see it. And I know that when I first got this deck, I always felt like I didn't like this card because I didn't like how I felt when I saw the card, because that meant that when I look at myself, I was like, I was in a state of fighting, and I didn't like that I was in a state of fighting, and that upset me. So as time has gone by and I fight the world less and less, I am less triggered by this card. So what I'm seeing with this particular card is quite a powerful message of what I talked about before. It's about our boundaries. Where in our boundaries? Where are our boundaries solid? And that's about, when I say solid, it's not about being so rock hard that nothing can penetrate. It's more like, where am I solid in my boundaries, as opposed to fighting to create boundaries and having to fight the external world. And as I come in and I'm more gentle and more soft with myself, then the need for the armory here is not as relevant. And so I don't feel like I need to fight the world in the same kind of way. So what's happening for you? Are you in a place where you're fighting to hold your boundaries in place, or fighting to like hold, stay in your, stand your ground? Because if you are, then ultimately it's you against the external world, and that creates pain. And that's not what living on our planet is meant to be about. It's meant to be, I'll find my words in a moment, stumbling over my tongue here. It's meant to be, from my personal perspective, standing in truth, standing in my truth, standing in my sovereignty. I use that term a bit, but it's really important. It's about standing in what I could also refer to as divine governance. And what does divine governance mean? It means that you're really connected to yourself. It's self-governance. Where am I at? What matters to me? And being aware of everything that I say and do, and I'm being fully responsible for that. So if I don't want to fight the world, then I have to stop wearing armory, so that I am pushing hard against the outside world. And I come in and I stand in my power and I stand in my strength. And I know that no matter what I say or do, ultimately I am fully responsible for every action, every word. And then I am also safe in that action. I don't live in a place of fear that I'm going to be bombarded or, knocked around by the external if they don't like what I say or how I speak or what I'm standing for. And it's not about pushing out and putting my words out to the world saying, you have to listen, otherwise you're all wrong. It's just knowing that it is my truth, and means I don't have to wear armory in the same way that this chap here does, because it's a fighting stance, and it doesn't need to be a fight, and this energy that we're living in is powerful. And I can see that the solar eclipse energy is really pushing us to stand in our truth, but we don't have to fight in order to stand in our truth. That's what I'm really getting here. And it's a beautiful message. It's a powerful message. And it's a message that we all need to hear, because trust me, there are some fighting energies out there at the moment, and I've been feeling them coming at me, and I've had to stay very clear. And I don't know if you're in the same position, but it can be really overwhelming. So recognizing that we can come home into our body, come home into our heart, and know that we are safe is really the important message here. So I think that was partly me and partly the collective, but what's happening for me, I'm sure other people are feeling something very similar. So now we'll draw a card for Charlie, which is beautiful. I'm so glad she's made it today. And here we go. Right, I love this card. So Charlie, this message for you is that, you've got this opportunity now to really be the rebel, and understanding what the rebel means to you. The solar eclipse is eclipsing the sun today in this new moon energy. But when I take it in the new moon energy of Cancer, and holding solid in our foundation and getting solid in our where our home space is, being the rebel is a beautiful role to play. What would you need to shake up the world and know that you're making a change for the space that matters to you? You can, do it from a different perspective. It doesn't have to look like how your parents did it or your grandparents did it. You can make choices that are completely different, and knowing that you understand where your boundaries are, then you can do that with safety and know that your choices are powerful and they're valid. really, really valid for you in how you create the boundaries and work with your home space and your foundations. So it's quite exciting. You've got this opportunity. I mean, the guy's holding a flame. I'll just have a quick look at that pick card again. He's holding a flame, so he's actually lighting the way, in a manner of speaking. He's also breaking the chains that have held him back. And this is you. This is, and also that you've got a cape that's got the sun on it as it comes over your shoulder here. It's quite a powerful card to remind you that you have all these beautiful things protecting you, showing you the way, and showing you how to break the chains of what didn't work in the past. So I think that's quite a beautiful message for you, Charlie. Okay, let's draw a card for me and see how different it is to the fighting card, because I really did feel quite valid. It really felt very powerful for me personally. So we'll see what comes through. Okay, what card are we coming up with now? Okay, interesting. Politics. This is for me. Okay. So what I'm seeing with this card is actually my whole world. My whole world is being pushed and pulled by some politics around a couple of groups that I'm engaging with and that I'm a part of. And I can see how politics are playing out. And there's a part of me that understands when it comes to playing out the politics, I need to step back and come back into my heart and be very clear in my sense of self that I'm not going to get dragged into a crazy story, because the more I go into a crazy story, the more I'm caught up in politics and the less stability I have in my heart. And that's what I'm getting from this card here. So it's still relevant. The first card is still valid in regards to the fighting card. But for me in the politics, if I stand my ground and I'm true to myself, then the politics will play itself out. And I get to choose how to engage this. I don't feel that I have to witness being, potentially manipulated and watching for that. So this is a big message for me personally. So, and I need to watch for this one. And we did have someone join us at the last minute. So Libby's going to get a card in a few seconds, and I'll just draw this card for Libby, and then I'll pull the story together, and then you'll be able to see the bigger picture. Okay. So Libby's card here is about control. And if we're talking about control and the Cancer energy and the solar eclipse today, and looking at the necessity of having clear boundaries in place in the home space, it's interesting how the control card can be very powerful. And what I'm noticing the most about this control card is that, as you see at the bottom of his body, where just below his hands, looks like a really sharp blade. And I can see that in this case, the blade has the capacity to slice and dice. And it's something that can happen so easily and so readily if we aren't present to ourselves. And so this is just a reminder that when we are being challenged by the external and behaviours that are crossing our boundaries, and we need to be clear about this, one of the things I can see is that the necessity to slice and dice is possibly relevant. But it also can be a bread and butter knife by one hand and a razor on another hand. And so witnessing the difference between the two, and just remembering and seeing where it is in your world that you are controlling, what needs control, what needs clear boundaries. And where you are comfortable in knowing that the boundaries are in place and you can hold what you need. So, and also too, knowing where, sometimes you can let your guard down and you don't need to be as in such a strong state of control. So it's understandable at the moment, at this point in time, the energies are really powerful, and we are all learning how to cope with this. It's a big message for everybody. And so I'll draw the story together. So what I'm hearing here, what I'm seeing with all of these cards is that, here we are with our fighting card, and knowing how do we fight and when do we fight and what's relevant and how much of the armory is really necessary. Because if we're standing in our empowerment, we don't need to have armory to fight anybody. It's because if we're fighting anybody, we're actually really fighting ourselves. And that's a really powerful memory. So it's a message. There, stumbling over my tongue again. And so, of course, after that, if we recognise that we don't need to wear the armoury, we actually become our own rebel. We become the powerhouse in our own world, because then we're in a position to light our own way, and we're in a position to break the chains of things that don't serve us anymore. And we have the sun over our shoulder, and I think there's also, I've looked at this before, there's an eagle hanging over his head. These are powerful metaphors for symbols of powerful symbols of power, seriously amazing symbols of power. So when we're really in a place of understanding that we can be our own rebel, and we can actually be strong and powerful as that rebel. And as we do that, watching how politics can actually pull us asunder, people who say one thing but actually mean another, and witnessing that. And so now actually what I'm getting with this extraordinary card at the tail end for Libby, that is actually for the collective now as well, is when it comes to politics, knowing when to cut a conversation short, knowing when to say, all right, no, you've crossed the line, and standing in an element of control that doesn't go beyond the boundaries of what is going on, but clearly, definedly indicates that someone's crossed the line and you're going to cut the conversation short, and that's all that needs to be said and done. And thank you very much. So I think that's a beautiful story that we all need to be reminded of today. And so thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to enable everyone to unmute themselves if they wish to. And I have taken off the. Okay, so everybody's unmuted, and if anybody would like to share something, make sure your video's off. And I would love to hear what anyone's going to share. So, okay, so Charlie, do you have anything you'd like to say or any feedback?
Oh, just that I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had the day off yesterday, and all I wanted to do was stuff around my home and just finally make some areas feel like my home. And there's still more to go, and getting into feng shui and, yeah, changing things up completely. So, yeah, this is kind of even more exciting. But that's all I want to do this weekend.
Oh, well done. That is so fantastic. Thank you. Okay. Libby is sharing because she's unable to speak from her location, and she's basically saying that she's really enjoyed the reading. It was absolutely spot on. And she's also doesn't have a microphone. So, and she also said that she's enjoying the dance, which I really appreciate as well. So thank you very much, Libby. It's really lovely to have your feedback as well. Okay, everyone. So if you are watching this video and you wish to come back and give any feedback, then you're very welcome to make comments in the bottom of the, underneath the comment sections. And I'd love to hear from you. It's always a powerful time when we go through these full moons and new moons, and this particular time of the eclipse season. So we'll have an eclipse affecting the next 2 readings. And you'll probably be feeling the intensity and witnessing the intensity. And so any feedback, any thoughts and words would be really great to hear from you, because when there's an interaction, there's also more support. There's other ways of looking at it and knowing that, trust me, you're not alone. And we're all in this together. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. If anyone would like to contact me, you're welcome to do so via my Facebook page, which is Priscilla Hole oh God, I can't even remember my Facebook handle. How funny is this? Priscilla Hole Wholeness Therapies Brisbane. You can message me there personally, and you can also contact me via my website. And I'm also on Instagram. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, I occasionally put some stuff up there as well. And yeah, that'd be really cool. Love to hear from you all. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Happy eclipse and a Cancer new moon, and we'll speak again in a couple of weeks. Thank you.